Ready? And we will start our regular meeting with a roll call, please.
Okay, Commissioner Patton is absent this evening. Commissioner Barwick,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here. You would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is our section for public comments, audience to visitors. I want to remind those that would care to speak to the council that this portion of our meeting is governed by an ordinance 3128, and it's amended by a different ordinance 3134, which is up on the desk. So if you want to know what the constraints are to that, you can read through that. In short, they are one of the constraints is you're not supposed to speak more than 5 minutes. So, but there's multiple ones there. So, anyway, now is the opportunity for those that like to speak to the council to do so, subject to those ordinances. Yep, Ron. Nope, sorry, he raised his hand first.
Thanks, Mayor Absher. Commissioners, members of staff, just wanted to say thank you for engaging us, Illinois Realtors, through the Egyptian Board of Realtors on dialogue regarding the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code, agenda item 3646, which is before you this evening under old business. Thanks for that conversation. Thanks for that dialogue. We came to a clarification between members of the staff and our organization, plus we were able to highlight a couple areas where actually the city could help us out on a couple items for our members and some of their clients. But again, thank you, and we support the initiative going forward this evening. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If you would tell us your name and what you're going to speak about.
My name's Leon Allen. I'm a homeowner here in Marion, also employed here in Marion. I'm here to address the city council. Thank you guys for hearing me, by the way. I was cited by the city on their ordinance for livestock. I have 5 chickens in a small coop in my backyard. They're completely contained. The only part of the ordinance that my chickens violate are simply their existence. The whole bottom half of your ordinance, they are not at large. There are no orders. There are no complaints for neighbors. As a matter of fact, I turned in 10 affidavits to your city attorney, excuse me, signed by my neighbors, telling the city that there were no problem, no noise, no complaints at all. Matter of fact, I wasn't even complained on to get this started. The city animal control just decided to come down on me over this, over me asking the city to trap skunks because we're overrun with skunks on the south end of town. I know that 93% of U.S. cities allow backyard chicken coops. That number's growing. I don't see how it would harm anyone for the city to revise its ordinance, set a limit on the number of chickens, set a limit on the fact that they need to be contained, not nuisance animals. I understand people don't want any animal, as far as that goes, coming off someone else's property onto theirs, which my animals don't. I try to be a responsible pet owner. My animals are pets. They are strictly pets. They were started out as babies in my house in a tub. We've raised them from babies to adults now. So it would definitely, be a hardship on my family to have to get rid of them. Other than that, I don't really have a lot to say. I appreciate the city hearing me. I will not get rid of my chickens until I've heard something from you guys as far as a decision. And I think that's fair.
Well, you might as well just stand right back up there at the podium then if you're going to wait for a decision. So we just need to discuss it then. So first of all, without action by the council, the ordinance is in place. To speak one thing that you said, I just want you to understand one thing that I think is a little bit of a in my opinion, is a mischaracterization of something. I don't think animal control is coming down on you because of that. They had a duty to tell you what the ordinance was when they came to your residence to address the skunk thing. Matter of fact, it would have been a dereliction of duty had they not informed you of it, whether you agree with that ordinance or not.
Okay, so how do you explain the 10 affidavits I give you? All 10 of those people told me that your animal control told them if they wanted nuisance animals trapped, to buy a trap and do it themselves.
I don't understand what that's got to do with what I just said.
Well, I mean-
I'm not sure whether that's the case or not. I'm not following what you.
You know, I had 3 different people talk to me in the beginning about this ordinance. All 3 people had different stories. All 3 people had different dates on when the ordinance was enacted. Me and my wife did not know we were breaking the ordinance to begin with. We thought we just had to not have roosters with our girls to keep down the noise, you know, to not violate the noise ordinance. So, I guess my point is that maybe you gotta get everybody in this room on the same page when they cite to a citizen what the ordinance is.
Well, I mean, that'd be helpful, but the fact is, the ordinance was passed. It was passed before this council was seated, so it's 18 months plus old. I mean, it's not something that's new or that was enacted.
Well, but you know, it's also hard for me to stomach is when you drive all over town and everybody else, you know, you see chickens elsewhere, you see
get that.
goats, you see all kinds of stuff in the city.
I get that.
So how's that fair to us?
Well, I can't say that it is fair per se, but you need to keep in mind.
So this
Let me
just,
speak. You asked me a question. I'm gonna answer your question, please. We've got limited resources when it comes to animal control. Most of the time, which is kind of what brought this to a head to begin with, especially this year, to be honest with you, and I think the animal control officers can attest to this, 90% of the time, we're chasing skunks. That's been
I've
our.
tracked 12 on my property in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, you know why some of that is?
Why?
Do you have a skunk trap on your property?
I have a trap, I mean, it's a wire cage trap, but it's not specifically a skunk trap.
It's not, okay. So back to my point is most of the time we're chasing skunks. That leaves very little time for us to go out and proactively look. We didn't drive by your house, see that you have chickens and decided to cite you. We came there because of a skunk.
That's not what your animal control officer told us.
Okay. All right.
She told us she had been watching our chickens for months. She's known for 5 months that we had them.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna argue with you standing here at a city council meeting. You've demanded an answer, so I guess you guys can
Your
decide.
police officers witnessed that statement, as a matter of fact.
Okay. All right. You've demanded that these guys weigh in as far as an answer on this. What we have is an ordinance in place that was here before we were, so if you want. And interestingly, this ordinance reads specifically, whether I agree with the elements of it or not, or whether you do, it reads, which I find unusual, but it reads that the mayor shall enforce this ordinance. It was specifically worded that way, so lucky me. But if you guys have a different demeanor towards this, or you want to consider changing the ordinance, this man's demanding an answer. So,
Well, I mean, they're pets. I just want an answer as far as I don't want to have to get rid of my animals if I'm not going to have to. You know, I'd hate to get rid of them, then 3 days from now I find out that the city decided something else. That's my point there. I'm not really trying to be demanding of the city council.
My feeling would be, the ordinance stands, and it's a slippery slope whenever you allow one person, okay, I like you, you can keep your chickens, and the next person, no, you can't keep your chickens. We need to be on the same page. And as long as it's an ordinance, I don't see how there's any other interpretation that you can't have them. So I would be in favor of the ordinance stands.
Could I ask a question on that?
Certainly.
Are you saying that everybody needs to have gotten rid of their chickens, or just us?
Everybody, if the ordinance, well, I know what the ordinance reads, but in the city limits, you know, we can't allow you to keep yours and someone else to not keep theirs, or let them keep theirs and make you get rid of yours. It's like the speed limit's 50 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour for everybody.
I understand that, and that's just what I addressed earlier, that there are people all over town that have chickens here. I'm not the only one in this boat.
I'm not aware of other people, but
My feeling on it is this, and that is, I'm not anti-chicken by any means. I think the biggest problem amongst all, is not really the chickens, it's the feed and the critters that, it's just like cats. When people put cat food out, you're gonna get raccoons, skunks. I get them sometimes at my house once in a while. So I think it's more the feeding and stuff that draws the, I call them vermin, whatever you wanna call it, but that's the issue more so than I think the chicken. So I know in this day and age, you know, a lot of cities are into the organic stuff and farming or whatever. And, I mean, maybe it's something that we need to at least consider looking at that ordinance again with some restrictions. I get your point, but I think, you know, you can't have people throwing chicken feed and hog feed out in the middle of, you know, North Market Street or whatever else. I think it's not appropriate. Then you've got, okay, how many? How many becomes too many? What type of enclosure? All those things come into play. So I do say we have to uphold the statute as it stands because that's the way it is right now. But I think maybe we could look into it a little bit more.
What do you do when his specific neighbors in this particular case aren't objecting to it? What do you do when the neighbors are objecting to it? Because of the smell, because they live in town, they just don't expect to see chickens in their backyard, or any other kind of the
Yeah.
livestock that's listed in the ordinance.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on chickens in any case, but to me, it's very, somebody said slippery slope somewhere along in this, and I mean, everybody wants an exception, everybody has a story to tell as to why they're specific, whether it's chicken or a pig or whatever else it is. We had one instance this last couple of weeks where very similar as what you're talking about. Nobody complained, whatever, until 2 of his pigs got out and caused a traffic hazard, and we traced that back and found that there were 32 pigs at this property. He thought he had 17, by the way, and he had 32, of which 2 of which were pregnant at the time we did the inspection, which meant it was imminent that there were gonna be more than 32. It just, this stuff happened, I mean, they literally multiply quickly, cause, in this case, there were 2 pigs in the middle of the roundabout on Morgan. So, I mean, it's an imminent accident waiting to happen. And it's just, but at the aftermath of that was several phone calls of pleading, much like you are. These are pets, I've got them named and so forth, of which I'm an animal lover. I have a lot of empathy for that, but I don't know that people expect to be able to raise pigs in town. And so it just ends up being a slippery slope, and in this case, it's apparently up to me to sit there and enforce it. And you guys gotta tell me what you want me to enforce and what you don't.
Don't get me wrong, that's why I said there has to be limits. There's a difference between having a pet and having a zoo or a farm, you know, in town, you know. I wouldn't consider somebody who had a potbelly pig as a pet as raising livestock,
These are my notes.
you know.
Put this out in the back.
But, you know, 20 of them, yes, that's an issue. So, again,
Well, that was why I was asked, maybe, I don't want the ordinance repealed. I understand nuisance animals, do not get me wrong. Part of my living comes from agriculture. I understand that, but I think a revision of the ordinance is definitely something that's doable here. I mean, like I said, 93% of cities in the United States allow a certain number of backyard chickens in a self-contained coop. Our coop is completely self-contained. Our chickens do not run out anywhere. They go right there, and that's it. Their feed is kept up, only they can access it. I also,
How old are these chickens?
they're about 6 months. How many ever months from March till now.
Jim, what's your demeanor towards this?
Well, I'm fine with upholding the ordinance, but on this gentleman's behalf, I think if we do, it goes for everybody, not just him, you know. And I know at least one or two other places he's got them, you know.
I do too, right down the road here to the daycare.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm thinking,
My, just a little insight here, my neighbor, she has an autistic grandson. He come out the other evening, he likes to get the chickens pecking through the fence on his finger. One of the chickens squatted down there and she laid an egg right there on the ground. He had never seen a chicken lay an egg before. It tickled him to death. So you're gonna have at least one broken-hearted kid over there in the neighborhood if we don't get something done here tonight.
In their specific case, as far as that daycare, I think they had chickens long before that ordinance was passed. And it may have been an exception made for them or grandfather or something like that, I don't know. Or I don't know what the issue
I mean,
was.
the people right across Market Street from me have goats in their yard.
I understand. I'm not saying these things don't exist just because an ordinance exists. I'm saying we've got very limited resources. Let me equate it to you this way. Just because we've got an ordinance that says somebody can't go over 35 miles an hour on South Court Street does not mean that everybody only goes 35 miles an hour. It's a matter of whether you've got, and to stop it, you've got to have enough police resources to sit there and monitor it 24/7. So
If you get out there and cite one homeowner though for going 35 miles an hour and not the others, that's a problem.
well, we do that every day. We don't cite, we can only cite those that we're observing speeding at any given time, using that analogy.
So your animal control can't see the goat in the yard as it go past 20 times a day on South Market?
Mayor, may I speak?
Sure.
Okay. The lady with the goat on South Market, she has had that goat for many, many, many years. I've worked here for 10 years. No, it's been a lot longer than a year and a half now. There is also the daycare, they were grandfathered in. They've had chickens for many years. They use them as educational purpose for, that's it. That's all they use them for is educational purpose. They have done it for many, many, many years. Any place that we are finding chickens, livestock of any type, we are doing the exact same thing. They are given a time limit to remove the livestock. They are cited the city ordinance, and they are told that, if the livestock is not removed, that they will receive citations. So it's not just these, we're not picking on these people, and it has nothing to do with skunks. They were told at the time that we did not have any open traps. We took care of that problem. They had us go and buy new live traps. We called and let them know that.
You never brought them.
Ma'am, I called and asked you, and you told me you had one, that you did not need one of ours.
No, ma'am, that's not what I said.
Yes, that's exactly what you said. It's wrote down on our call log.
All right, we're not gonna sit here in a council meeting and have an argument, so just say your case and
But, like I said, we're not just picking on these people. It's everywhere. Any place that we get reports of chickens or any kind of livestock, we are checking out those places. If they've gotten those animals since before that city ordinance went in, it stays in that city ordinance, they're grandfathered. If they got that livestock after that city ordinance went into effect, they are told the exact same thing. They are to get rid of them.
So the city ordinance is pertinent to whether you lie about when you got your chickens or not.
all right, that's it. Have a seat.
May I ask when the
No.
ordinance went into
No,
effect?
we're March of 2019.
I've just been told 4 different days.
Well,
by
it's a
4
fact. I can show you. I don't have it with me.
I don't doubt you.
Okay, I don't know what you've been told. It was,
told 19 years ago by Officer Ferris. I was told a year
Well-
and a half ago by some other folks.
there are probably a number of animal control ordinances that have been in effect over numbers of years. The latest one that was passed was in March of 2019. I know that specifically because it was the month before. I was asked the question, why wasn't this talked about? Why wasn't it publicized in the paper? The only thing I can think of is probably because in April, the election was held and it probably just overshadowed whatever actions they took in March. That's the only thing I know.
We didn't knowingly break your ordinance. We
I'm not,
purposely did.
no one's suggesting that you did.
No,
It just,
was there.
okay.
I asked your code inspector, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, if we could have chickens, and he's the one that told me that I couldn't have a rooster. So,
Which what code inspector are you talking about?
He drives a city code inspector truck. He was at the house next door to my property, which is an abandoned house. He was there. And I asked him, he worked for the city, I assumed he would know. So I asked him, and that's what I was told. And like my husband was telling you, there's 13 million urban chicken owners in the United States alone.
I understand what you're saying.
All over the country trying to revise, that are revising their restrictions on chickens and urban chicken coops. And that's all I'm asking. You have a limit of number of dogs in your ordinance. It says 5 dogs in town. I don't know why we couldn't do that. If they had, just like if your dog is at large or a nuisance, you're cited and fined by animal control, they can do the same thing for chickens. I understand nobody wants a herd of cows or sheep or pigs in their backyard in town. That's not fit. But if we have no complaints, can't we at least think about revising the ordinance to put a limitation on these numbers, is all I'm asking from the council.
And that's a reasonable request. I just want to give you some perspective on, and I'm not pushing back, I just want to give you some perspective. Not everybody that has neighbors, we have had complaints from certain people that have chickens, and we go and cite them or tell them they're going to remove their chickens. Just because, that's what I was trying to say, just because your neighbors don't find a problem with it, doesn't mean that one of those neighbors doesn't change over the next year or something, and they might have a problem with it, or that that's going to be the same all over town. But the bigger issue that I have is that chickens, you're stating that these are your pets, which I can empathize with. The problem is some people think that their pigs are their pets, their goats are their pets, their whatever. And I just, from my standpoint, if I'm gonna be on that thing that says I'm gonna enforce it through you guys, I can't be listening to every story and iteration of this on the planet that there is, because it's just not tenable. It's just not a way to try to do it. So if you want to make a revision to the chicken thing, that's fine, and maybe 93% of them have that. But the very next thing you're going to get is a request to make a revision to the pig thing, and how many pigs are too many, how many goats are too many, how many whatever are too many. And if you're prepared to go down that, then that's what will go down. But whatever you guys legislate is what I'm ultimately responsible to tell people when they call.
Consider a revision.
Mr. Mayor, I'm in favor of enforcing the ordinance as it stands, and I wouldn't entertain a thought of revising it.
You obviously do favor revising it somewhat.
I favor at least looking at it. I'm not gonna say that I'll be dead honest, I have, since March of 19, I have not read in full our city code ordinance on city livestock. I know a little, I probably know like that guy did, oh yeah, I think it's okay as long as you don't have a rooster waking everybody up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, there's more to it than that, so, but I would be willing to look at it and see if there's, and it may end up right back to where we are today, like you said, and leaving it as it is. That may be what we decided with the whole thing, but I'm willing to at least look at it. That's just my.
Boy, are you on the bubble.
Let me get out of the way.
Yeah, I think I agree with Mayor, Commissioner Barber, that stick with the ordinance as is, no revision.
We're short one council member tonight, so I will visit with him, just so you've got some sort of reprieve, but
That's fine, we'll get rid of them.
as it stands at the moment, the ordinance is in effect, so.
May I have a couple of weeks to relocate them?
Sure. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah,
And through time.
okay.
We'll see if we can have Channel 3 watch it too.
Okay, anybody else like to speak to the council? Seeing none, then we'll move to item number 4 on our consent agenda. We have items A through E. Before we entertain a motion, would any of you like A through E removed from the consent agenda tonight? Or anybody from the audience like any of these removed and voted on separately? If not, we'd entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
would make a motion that we would pass the consent agenda as given.
Second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Under old business, item 5 is what Ron Diedrich alluded to in the public comments, and we've considered this over several council meetings and had some private discussions with some of the stakeholders that had some concerns relative to our enforcement of this, but this has to do with the adopting of the 2018 version of the International Property Maintenance Code. We can discuss that, we can need a motion before we can discuss it, please.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 3646, adopting the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code.
Second that.
Okay, any remaining discussion on this or questions that we have about this? Now's the time. Okay. There was a first and a second, right?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right, under new business, under Public Works, thank you. Let's see, we've got. A, B, and C. I'm gonna be abstaining from C, so whoever makes that, we've still got a quorum here, or at least got 3. Make that. Is Brent, where'd Brent go? Ah, there you are. Just in case anybody's got any questions on these. Item 6A.
I make a motion to approve the recommendation of Superintendent to hire Scott Crompton to the position of full-time labor at $16.99 an hour plus benefits per the contract, filling the position vacated by Colin Bashan.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item B is what I want to jump here for specifically, because I haven't seen one of these purchases phrased this way, and how did this come about where we're splitting a vehicle like this?
Well, it actually came about, I was just in Doug's office speaking of other things, and he brought up the fact that he was looking at purchasing one of these gators, as a common name for what we're buying, to do some, ditch cleaning and street maintenance and things like that. We have thought about this before, to do very similar things as far as we control on some of our sewer and water right-of-ways, and also for mosquito abatement in some areas that we can't get the trucks in to do some mosquito fogging and things like that. So in that discussion, I basically told him that we could split the cost of it and we could split the use of it. Then Doug's the one that got both of these bids. Looks like the low bid was for Good Guys Motorsports for the Kawasaki Mule for $10,398, which would be about a $5,000 split between the two departments. We've split things before in the past, it's just been some time, but this is a good fit because he will be using it more during the day when he's cleaning ditches and stuff with his day shift guys, and we will be either doing it in the evenings for mosquito abatement and early in the morning, or getting it when he's not using it.
I'm talking to Doug, at times, we're in people's backyards around a ditch.
Right.
We can maybe utilize this vehicle when tear yards is bad.
Tear up yards, it just dragging limbs out, through people's backyards, it's less intrusive.
Is the mosquito abatement, will that be on the roadway?
Well, we've got some areas that are along right-of-ways that we can access along creeks and ditches and things. We can larvicide the ditches a lot easier with an all-terrain vehicle. Some of the places that we could actually apply the insecticide would be off-road that we can't really get the trucks in those areas too.
You're not talking going through the neighborhoods with?
No, we wouldn't need anything like, it'd be right-of-ways and things like that, sewer easements, water easements. Just to get a little bit better coverage. We've thought about it for many years actually, but this is just a good time to do it since Doug is needing the piece of equipment too.
I applaud you
thinking along that line. And I don't know if this is the case, but sometimes it seems like we're kind of siloed in these departments and maybe don't share equipment and resources as much as maybe what it sounds like you're doing. So
Yeah, we're
appreciate
trying
it.
to get better at doing that. Used to, it was very departmentalized. Now, we do share things a little bit better now, and we try to look ahead and see things that we can work with together and, you know, make good decisions on that.
Okay. Guys wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Public Works Superintendent to purchase a utility vehicle from Good Guys Motorsports for $10,398 for use by the sewer and street departments for cleaning waterways and to help with mosquito abatement and grounds maintenance. The cost to be split equally between the two departments using excess unallocated funds.
I would second that.
Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay?
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 6C.
Item 6C is a budgeted item. We need to purchase a new utility bed work truck. We put this purchase off for a few years just because of other things that have come up, but we really need to do it. We've got a 2002 Chevy that needs to go. Need to get a new truck to replace it, and the utility bed trucks seem to work very well for both water and sewer departments, so that's what we're opting this time. 3 bids here: Marion Motors, $43,661. Vogler Ford, $42,177, and Absher Arnold, $34,055. The mechanic that I had gathered these bids reviewed all the specs. It seems like all 3 trucks meet what we want.
Is that a new or a used truck from Absher?
These are all new. All.
Just that.
Well, actually, I expected the prices to come in at $35,000. That's what I budgeted. When I saw these other 2 come in, they were actually first. I was a little bit concerned that we had not allocated enough money, but then when we got the bid from Absher Arnold, it was in line with what we, I think, paid in the past for these type trucks.
Seems like quite a variance there to me. That makes,
Well,
usually when we
yeah.
see quite a variance, we start double checking and triple checking everything.
I did. Like I said, my mechanic reviewed the specs. It's a 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive truck with, they all have the same utility beds on them. We spec'd a specific bed, so he confirmed that it met the specs.
Before we have a motion, because I have long anticipated when something like this comes up, and I think this is the first time that this dealership has won a bid, unless I'm mistaken, since I've been elected. But while the state, I do not have any ownership in my brother's dealerships. This one belongs to him, even though my last name is in that, but I have no ownership of it. State statute does not require me to abstain from this vote, but I will, just for appearance's sake. But I just wanted to be clear about that, because we have a way of making controversial things out of non-controversial things.
And we knew that, and we intentionally did not get a bid from Watermark.
Well, yeah, that's known, but that's, to my knowledge, this is the first time, although they've bid, I think this is the first time they've won a bid on one of the departments that we've done. So anyway, I said my piece on it. Just want to be conspicuous and transparent about it, so we would entertain a motion on item 6C.
I would make a motion
Good.
to approve the recommendation of the Public Works Superintendent to accept a low bid of $34,055 from Absher Arnold Motors for a new 3/4 ton work truck with a utility bed. This is a budgeted item for the sewer department and will be paid with operating funds.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay?
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Or abstain, I'm sorry, just made my pitch and then forgot. Item 7A, we have one rezoning request as listed here. What's your pleasure, guys? You want to entertain this motion or entertain by giving a motion or not?
I'd make a motion to affirm the zoning board's approval of zoning change 10, number 06-14-229-01, 0203, and 6-14-229-019, and 020, from C1 General Commercial to C2 Highway Commercial.
I would second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 8A, Street Department.
Yeah, this is a project, I spoke to Doug about it, and this vehicle testing equipment needs to be in something that's a little more weatherproof, and so this is a project that he's wanting to do, and it's a budget item. With that, I'd make a motion to approve the low bid from Truebilt for $10,800 to repair leaks, insulate, and add entrance to the storage room, which is a budget item.
I would second that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 8A, I think I want to speak to this real briefly so that people understand what this is. We've long had, Williamson County has long had an enterprise zone. That's something that all the taxing bodies apply for through, there's only a certain number of those that are available in the state. And Glenn, you speak up if I'm saying this wrong. But one of the long-standing issues with our enterprise zone is those are typically 10-year programs, right? 10-year programs. Well, the way that the language read in our enterprise zone was that basically if you do a project at the 9th year, you only got 1 year's worth of incentives. Well, you can imagine, because we are in that year, where this is the last year of that enterprise zone. Fortunately, they did approve our application for a new enterprise zone, but this is the taxing bodies, all the towns in Williamson County, as well as the county, agreed to language that basically gives somebody a 10 full years, regardless of when in that 10-year cycle they do a project. Because as you can imagine, it's not much, if anything, in your 8th, 9th, maybe even your 6th through 10th year, it's actually kind of deters somebody and say, well, we'll just wait and see if you will get a new enterprise zone and apply for that later. So I think that's what most of these clarifications had to do with that was in this. Am I stating that right to your understanding, Glenn?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the new one will be 5 years.
The new one is 5 years, but it carries the same kind of language. You get full 5 years regardless of which year you enter into it.
Exactly.
Right. So I guess I'll just make, since I explained it, I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 3657, which is Marion's agreement to the change in the language of deleting the property tax incentive clarifications for Williamson County Enterprise Zone.
I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 9B. You want to speak to this real briefly, Cody?
Yeah, so the city is undertaking a amendment to the North Commercial TIF. In that process, of course, we have to have public hearings and go through all the defined changes that we anticipate from that amendment. So this ordinance, Ordinance 3658, just establishes the date for that public hearing as November 23rd of this year. Since our meeting time changed, that public hearing has been moved up to 4 p.m. Prior to our council meeting that evening, which would be later on at 5:30 p.m. And there is a copy of the proposed amendment on file here at City Hall for public viewing.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 3658, establishing a date for public hearing for the proposed second amendment to the North Commercial TIF District.
Second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 9C and 9D, I think, are interrelated. These have to do with just some qualified expenses within those TIFs that need to be reaffirmed in these amendments between basically the Pepsi plant itself and the bottling company, crisp container, basically. And so these need two different motions, two different ordinances, but that's what these are both for.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 3659, approving the second amendment to the Marion TIF District 5 redevelopment agreement between the city and Chris Realty Company.
I would second that.
And roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay.
And I'd also make a motion to approve ordinance 3660, approving the second amendment to the Marion TIF District 8 redevelopment agreement between the city and Chris Realty Company.
I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 9E.
Mike, you want me to address that?
Yeah, why don't you, since it's a little bit different, the way this is, I don't recall having something like this before, so.
Several months ago, Brent and I got together and decided that the old industrial park lift station needed to be replaced. So looking for source of funding, made it with, along with Greater Region, put an application in to the Delta Regional Authority for funding to replace that. In addition to the lift station, there's some force main to be replaced. So we filed the application and we were fortunate enough to be funded. Grant was $225,000 from a grant from the DRA, and then the city has to come up with $103,000. And this resolution is to ensure that the regional authority, that the city is going to do their share, local share of the funding.
You guys have any questions of Glenn on that?
That's a crucial lift station because it serves about 5 other lift stations, goes tributary to that. And then that pumps to the big lift station on Halfway Road, which in turn pumps the sewage through a 16-inch force main to the new wastewater plant. So that's a crucial lift station in Brent's system. It was put in 1974, upgraded in the mid-90s, and it's in dire need of help.
Okay, what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I would, okay, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-54, authorizing Mayor Absher to perform certain administrative duties on behalf of the city of Marion in dealing with the federal award from the Delta Regional Authority.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 9F, I just handed you this sheet. And just for clarification for the public's consumption, this sounds like we're issuing new debt. That's not what this is. This is refinancing. In municipal world, call it refunding of bonds. This is roughly 10 million plus or minus worth of bonds. At the end of the term, we'll be saving about $818,000, $819,000. That's what this shows and when we will be saving that money. So we're trying to take advantage of lower interest rates now that these bonds are callable on existing debt. And that's what this is about. So I appreciate the treasurer and our bond counsel working hard to try to find savings opportunities for us as they come up, and that's what this has yielded.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 3662, an ordinance providing for the issuance of $10 million general obligation and refunding bonds, series 2020.
I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Under public affairs, we've got two properties that I'm recommending to the council that we purchase. These are small, inexpensive properties that total about $15,000 between the two. And that would be my motion to execute the purchase contract for the properties at 1104 and 1117 Midway Court.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Commissioner reports. Doug's gone tonight, so who wants to go next? Jim, you did, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Street department's still working on sidewalks, just finishing up some on Washington Street. Finished striping the square, that looks really good after, especially after we got everything sealed, so I appreciate everybody's hard work on that. Still repainting some crosswalk signs and doing our normal ditch cleaning and culverts, trying to take advantage of some dry weather to do that. Cemetery, we've had 17 burials so far in September, which we usually have 10 to 15, so we've had uptick in that. Just keep in mind, they're gonna start sealing streets out in the cemetery probably tomorrow in Maplewood and Oddfellows, which is on the west side of Route 37. So throughout the cemetery, you might be mindful of that and let them guys get to work done. We much appreciate it. So that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Stecklin?
All right.
Trivia, please.
I'm gonna save the trivia for the end. I'll mount this. Okay. So, water department, we had 2 new service taps, 2 water main breaks, 2 service leaks, 2 services updated, 2 fire hydrants replaced, and finished laying the new water main on North Logan Street. The water department started the flushing of water mains today. I was in the southwest quadrant of the city, then it'll proceed to the northwest, then northeast, and lastly the southeast. Each quadrant takes about 2 weeks to complete. The water department facility on North Madison is at the axis of those quadrants, so it's not the city square. You may experience what looks to be dirty water, but safe, no need to be alarmed. It goes away after a few hours. If it does not, contact the water department. We're happy to address the situation. Okay, trivia. In 1918, during World War I, Marion was only able to use water for 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon. Well water was Marion's source at that time, believing it was located around the square somewhere. Fear of it drying up due to a lack of rain or a fire running it dry, Marion built the current city lake in 1921, which gave the city 6 months' supply of water instead of 2 hours per day consumption. So
That was a good one.
there's your trivia. Now, one thing I didn't say, I want to go on to say, hey, the mural, fantastic job. If you haven't seen it yet, please go by on Paradise Alley and check out the mural. So I understand you had a hand.
Oh, I drew half of a line.
As far as, I saw it. So that's really good. Also, check the cleanup around town. I think what you're seeing on City Square is disseminating throughout to other parts of town. I think it's starting to spiral a little bit, which is a great thing. So I encourage everybody to keep doing that. Let's make, like you said when you were running, put your visitor glasses on, take a look at the city. If you see something, let's clean it up, bring it to our attention. We'll do the same. So that's all I've got.
So I've got some trivia for you.
Oh, I knew it.
Since you brought up Paradise Alley, I saw this, somebody actually sent me the article. Anybody know why it's called Paradise Alley? What the rumor is why it's called Paradise Alley? You know the background behind it? Do you? Well, yes. So supposedly the last public hanging in Williamson County was, of course, by the jail there. But the rumor in this article was, the article says that the rumor was the reason they called it Paradise Alley is because that's where you went to meet your maker. Isn't that kind of it's an interesting little story. But it's actually a germane little story because I think although that's a really macabre story, those are the kinds of things, like you said, relative to the alley, that we need to tell that little story, even if that's just a little poster. It's interesting to some people to read about that. It is historic. It is 100 years old. Need to have that article put on a plexiglass or something so that some people can read. But as part of that, that's only as good as having other reasons for people to visit these alleys. And so
What's
the next thing
cool
you're
right
gonna
now
see,
is there are 2 cars going down that alley right now.
yeah,
How much did that happen before that mural was there? It didn't. So,
The next
in the
thing-
New Orleans, there's walking tours of New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's great. That's what, this is gonna be part of that in the future.
and the next thing Josh is going to do, you know, as part of our revitalization plan, as you've probably seen, which, you know, this is a multi-year plan, it's gonna be very difficult for me to be patient to see all of this stuff come to fruition. But part of what that plan was, which I've talked about this quite a bit, instead of these alleys being dark and unsafe and really places you would never think of going, we're literally gonna turn them into on-ramps, if you think of it that way, onto the square, and utilize things like what we just talked about as reasons for them to be there. But as part of that was, I don't know what you'd call the little stringy light.
Stringy lights.
Stringy lights. There you go. So Josh has decided to go ahead and do that in between the 2 buildings. We're not gonna wait on that since we went ahead with the mural, so we can start to see a preview and whet our appetite a little bit about what these alleys can be, really, what they can be. So, and we also are gonna seal the alleys. We did not do that the first round with the square, but we're gonna go ahead and seal the alleys, asphalt, so that they don't look, in comparison, look bad. So anyway, there's your some more trivia. What trivia do you have?
I don't have any.
Aw. Okay, do you have a report?
I do not.
No report. Okay, I do want to read you, one of the things we haven't talked about a lot since she was hired, and a lot of this has become mainly because of COVID and stuff. We're mainly shut down, but the Senior Citizen Center really is anything but shut down. It just doesn't have a lot of seniors there every day. And I do want to say that Jill, our new director, I'm gonna paraphrase what Cody told me the other day, so I'm gonna give him kudos for saying this, is that Jill is a rock star, and we should feel very fortunate that she came to us as an applicant for that position. So we haven't talked a lot about it, but we're very pleased with the leadership she's bringing the Senior Citizen Center, and just wanted to say that. Just wanted to make sure we called that out. So just because it's not open to the public every day doesn't mean they're not working very hard. And as evidence of that, as of September 28th, we have served over 2,900 meals and will exceed 3,000 by the end of the month, increasing those that we served pre-COVID at 140 to over 180 today. So on September 23rd, the Egyptian Area Agency on Aging came to register our guests and help them complete the census with handheld tablets while in line at lunch, pass out farmers market certificates and assist those in need of iPads and tablets in applying for the free device through the Illinois Assistive Technology Program grant, thanks to the CARES Act that gave the Illinois Department of Aging and the Illinois Department of Human Services $1.7 million for those seniors who are socially isolated. We are successfully utilizing the lunch bags as our communication for outreach and education, covering multiple topics from census registration, which is a very important thing we need to mention. Actually, at this meeting, I think there's, 2 days? Is it today? When they have extended it? Through when? Well, there was 6 days left on it about 4 days ago, so I'm not sure, but since we're right here, I'll mention it. If you have not registered for the census, this means end of October. Please take the opportunity to go to my2020census.gov. I did it myself, registered all 5, at that time, 5 members of my household. It took literally less than 5 minutes. It's easy peasy. But it literally means about, if I understood the governor last week, who was here in Marion talking about this very topic. Over a 10-year period, it means about $12,000 or $14,000 per resident to city funding in one form or another. It gets divided up, all kinds of different programs, but if that doesn't, so in my household, that ultimately, apparently $60,000, $70,000 ultimately in one program or the other. Even if that's just motor fuel tax funds, I think that's one good example of how motor fuel tax funds gets allocated, is based on population. So they take, if anybody, you don't know how that works, all the gas taxes that we pay gets pooled into one big bucket in the state. It doesn't get divided into the towns that generate the tax. It's divided by the population. So even the smallest towns get their fair share and their proportionate share. So that's one very easy to understand example. Almost every state and federal program uses census data to divide up those funds. So it's very, very important. As of last week, Marion's preliminary rate of participation was 67%, if I understand it correctly. The state is now over 70%, which is a good result, but unfortunately Marion's dragging a little bit behind. So if you have not done that, please do so, because what that indicates, if Marion's dragging behind the state is just everybody else other than Marion, and that means we may not get not even our fair share of it. So please do that. Census takers are out knocking on doors right now, but maybe the easiest way, if you don't run into one of them or they don't knock on your door, is go to mycensus2020.gov. And for those that don't have internet access, Marion Carnegie Library's got plenty of it, and we welcome you to visit the library.
Mayor, I'm just curious, our population count, like you see, is that based on that or something?
It is. It is. Sure is. Let's see what else Jill had to tell about the senior citizens. They conducted a written take-home survey that they asked their guests to complete to help them better serve their needs. They asked for information and events at the library, the hub, and around town, and this really kind of ties into what we've been talking about, is we need to do a better job just with the offerings that the city has for all of our citizens. So Amanda Throgmorton from Heartland Hospital is working, and we're so really blessed, not just happy, blessed about this, is working to provide 200 washable and reusable masks to all of their guests after noticing many seniors reusing disposable masks. So the Senior Citizens Center is working with Heartland to distribute those, as well as hand sanitizer to all of our seniors, and to educate all of our senior guests on Breast Cancer Awareness Month with what they're calling car-side questions and sanitizer. I'm sorry, I skipped a sentence. Car-side questions and answers on October 7th. So they literally go from car to car from 10:30 a.m. until the last person is served, asking or answering questions. And that sounds simple. That's a long day's worth, let me tell you. Heartland Hospital will also host 3 drive-through flu clinics at the Marion Senior Citizen Center for all of our senior guests on October 14th, 21st, and the 28th. So the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th will have flu shot clinics, I presume. And we also, for the first time, I believe, have established an online presence through the beginning of an official Facebook page to help funnel more helpful and information that's informative to our guests that are online only. So again, we appreciate all of our employees at the Senior Citizen Center continue to do. It's not as visible to the general public, but if you think about 180 people a day eating versus a really well-balanced meal versus what the alternative there may be for them, I think you can all agree they're doing quite the service to our Senior Citizen Center. And again, just want to give a shout out to Jill and appreciate her leadership and her rock star-edness, as Cody calls her. So thank you, Rockstar Jill. And I see that Chief David Fitz has something to say.
Just so this can get out, Becky, please put this out, Terrence as well. We are accepting applications at the Marion Police Department for entry-level police officer, and our testing will be November 14th Saturday, November 14th, 8 a.m. at the Marion High School.
Okay, can you just, since you brought it up, what are the minimum qualifications?
You must be 21 years of age, have no criminal record.
What if somebody's turning 21 by the time the testing would be complete? Is that
That is fine.
okay?
Yes, it is.
So if you're on the cusp of it, basically, that's okay.
Correct. You also must have either a high school diploma, GED equivalent, or 3 years active military in a, like overseas, I'm not even sure the right terminology. 3 years active duty military if you did not finish high school.
So high school GED or 3 years active duty?
Yes, sir.
Packets.
Packets can be picked up at the Marion Police Department. Come inside the main lobby, go straight to the dispatch window, and that's where they are. Please come with your driver's license. Yeah, and also it helps to have a valid driver's license.
What's the upper age limit, just curious?
Think about applying, Jim?
No. Is there one?
For entry level 35.
Okay.
And for any local officer that has completed the academy and would like to apply at the Marion PD, we're taking your applications as well.
Let's talk about Halloween just real briefly before we dismiss. I am still waiting on guidance from IML. And for the general public, IML is known as the Illinois Municipal League, and that's kind of our lobbying organization, that organization that represents all towns and trying to interface with the state and get guidelines on certain things. So they've been our primary conduit of information on how to deal with a lot of COVID-related issues. And as of this afternoon, we have still not got any guidelines from the Illinois Department of Public Health relative to trick-or-treating. And I'm starting to get lots of questions on trick-or-treating, and I really was hoping to get some guidelines from them in our specific situation. Most of the towns around here are not doing trunk or treat because we're trying to not amass people too much, but are still allowing trick or treat, assuming that they wear masks and gloves. Some of the other mayors that I've talked to, one as recently as today, which I think probably sounds like a good idea. I don't know. I'm just asking for your guys' feedback on this because in absence of any state guidelines, I'm not really sure what our collective demeanor should be on it. But maybe going ahead and putting the candy in Ziploc bags or something so that they're not handling every piece or something like that. So that maybe sounded like a good idea to me. I don't know. Do you guys have any ideas on it?
Is that a mask on their mask?
It's, yeah, I don't even know how you do that. I don't know. But what's, you know, I guess this seems to change a little bit from what I am reading. The CDC is not recommending that we proceed with either, actually, if I understand it right at this point. Most towns around us are accommodating that, but with the caveat that trick-or-treaters wear masks and or gloves, as well as the people giving out the candy need to be wearing out the masks and gloves and or putting it in individual baggies. But you guys tell me. Everybody keeps calling me for the answer, and I don't have the answer for it, so I would really appreciate the feedback from you guys as to what you think the proper thing is.
I would vote to allow it to happen.
Any caveats with it or anything, or?
People, well, first of all, the parents with the kids gotta use common sense, and the people giving out the candy have to use common sense. I mean, you know, but you go around to the restaurants or to the stores and stuff, okay, it's the same precautions that we're taking there. I don't see any different to two kids coming up to somebody's house and getting candy. They're not gonna come in and spend 15 minutes in a closed room with them. They're gonna walk up to it and run and get out of there and get to the next house. So I think the kids have had enough upheaval already this year. I'd hate to see another thing happen to them.
be a big turnout with everything canceled this year, that would be a big.
Well, especially with the trunk or treats and stuff, I mean, that was so big last year. That's such a shame that we can't do it, but I don't see any,
Spooktacular is
just-
canceled.
pardon me?
Spooktacular is
Yeah.
canceled this year. It will be back next year.
You know, about probably twice the size. So again, we'll make an announcement at some point, I guess, as to what our official demeanor is, but it sounds like in absence of somebody saying we just can't absolutely do it for some reason, that's where we're leaning. But I would encourage people, whether it's this town or any other place, kind of like along what you said with common sense. If you don't want to participate in that, you're a homeowner, then turn your light off and don't answer the door. If you don't want your child to participate in it, then don't dress up and participate in it. But for all those that do, I would recommend some precautions. And that includes wearing masks, it includes wearing gloves, it includes considering putting that candy in a Ziploc bag and having a minimum amount of hand-to-hand, if you will.
I make a prediction that we'll see a immense number of doctor and nurse costumes this year. Just-
Yeah. Okay, anything else to come before the council? I don't have a need for closed session tonight unless one of you guys do. Anything else under miscellaneous to come before the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd make a motion that we would adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay, thank you all.